God on the Move.
But now when they come by themselves, getting the truth from the scripture because they are reading the Bible consistently by themselves, getting the conviction by themselves. So when they are going to speak those truths, it is the locals themselves speaking it.
The Republic of South Sudan is a landlocked country in East Africa, and it's the world's youngest country, having gained independence in 2011 after decades of conflict. It is also a predominantly rural country where most people rely on subsistence farming and livestock for their livelihoods. Decades of conflict, widespread displacement, flooding, poor infrastructure, and limited access to healthcare and education have left many rural communities facing significant hardships. In these areas, Christianity is more than a religion. It is a vital source of hope, community, and practical support. Local churches often serve as gathering places, provide education and humanitarian assistance, and help foster peace and reconciliation in communities affected by violence. You are listening to the God on the Move podcast. This Lausanne movement production is part of a wider initiative dedicated to sharing testimonies of God's work across the world for every believer. And this is a story about sharing the gospel and nurturing change in South Sudan. The voice you heard earlier is Tom Obwogo. He is a servant of Christ, and this is his story.
I'm from Kenya, from church in Kenya, but I was sent in South Sudan 2 years and 3 months ago in a partnership between my church, that's Gracehill Mission Church, with an organization here known as World Concern. That's the partnership that we work with. World Concern is offering the logistics within the country because it's an NGO that has had presence here. And now the church is the one that has sent me through something we call Africans to Africa. So it's a vehicle that has brought other churches in partnership. Now it partners with World Concern. Now the World Concern is more of my logistics, ticket, food, house here. But here, World Concern now has partnered with the local church, that is Episcopal Church of South Sudan. It's the main church here, and that partnership is now what I used to operate here through the Episcopal Church. So the Episcopal Church has offered the vehicle for ministry because it has been very hard. South Sudan is still a young country, just got independence in 2011. It has never had election yet, just in transition government. So we still have trauma, we still have some tensions, war, and even it affects some time our work because this life is still within that tension of transition from the larger Sudan that was there before now to South Sudan. That's basically the environment that I'm working with, but currently now in WOW. So when I am here, we are working with the Episcopal Church, gives us local evangelists, so that when I'm coming, I am A-to-A coordinator, but to my church, I'm a missionary. The church here provides local evangelists. Currently, I'm working with 15. They are the ones that we use to penetrate the villages because of language barrier. So anyone that can speak English and has been in church, has been serving, we pick them and they become local evangelists. My major responsibility is to work with them. It is my main responsibility to disciple them, work with them, train them. We train them on monthly basis. And our villages are far away that we are working with. You find one evangelist is working with like 8 villages, whereby they plant churches, they disciple the churches. They must have now whom we call a local evangelist, whom they are working with also in the village. And that's how we have been working, that currently we have planted almost 200 churches through that initiative, where they have not had church because we still have syncretism, we still have culture, we still have so many things that we found practicing here, like spear master, that's like a witch who controls the community. So this penetration through this evangelist to the community has really opened that door of planting churches and discipling communities. That's basically the structure of how we work. So my main work is the 15 evangelists, but also I have now visitations to these villages, weekly visitations, because there are over 200 villages that we have planted churches, and some are very, very far, like 6 hours drive, and we don't have any tarmac in South Sudan. So we use land cruisers and those to move there. We have seen fruits first just working with these evangelists, the 15 evangelists, because now they are the ones starting schools. Because now the model of ministry is that they have to plant schools, they have to plant churches, because now we are using the school as a discipleship tool when we gather children. Children have become a pillar of the ministry, and we are seeing how do we gather them so that we disciple them continuously. That has been a pillar through schools, though it's very challenging since there are no classes. Even the churches and everything we are using, it's done under the trees. And the children, you see now, a class 8 is the one teaching the class 3. So the one who has gone ahead is the one becoming the teacher. So the one who is in class 5 can teach the one that are starting school. That's how we are multiplying the work. Mostly the education is just to bring that foundation, not like we are targeting university, but to have the foundation that they can read, they can write their names, they can read the Bibles, but also they can gather where now they meet to pray and to be discipled. Personally, I've been so passionate towards children ministry that I have given it priority number 1. Because when I came, I saw we had so many children, but we were not attending to them. The evangelists were attending to these old people, but we have many children in trauma. Poverty level is very high. In terms of that, there's a time I was showing Jesus film at night, and there was a mother who was expectant, and you could see the trauma that now I have become a doctor again in the field. But now through this, we have reached the children that we gather them, we train them. We have trained almost 300 teachers that I have been training. I have partnered with Community Health Evangelism that gave me some materials. Yes, I had been trained by them after my university. So it has been easy also to get materials from them to just train Sunday school teachers. I came when there were no Sunday school ministry, but currently I have seen it growing even from the churches, and we have now started seeing local movements from part of our high deaconry that they have taken that passion towards children, that now I can account for over 2,000 children who gather every Sunday across the 200 villages, and I can account for teachers who are teaching them and what they are teaching. Even though now the material challenges, we don't have enough material for children. Also the materials that I get from Kenya, now here the basic English, we need the very basic. Even for these evangelists, we need now to chew it to be very basic so that they can get it. So that has been the challenge, the materials for the Sunday schools, because some villages are sharing. But I have seen the passion through it as a discipleship tool, more so through children and teachers.
Before we continue with the story, I want to let you know that you can join the God on the Move community on the Lausanne Action Hub. Be part of the conversation and share your own testimony. You can find the link to join the community in the podcast description. Also, if you have a story to share or know someone who might have, please contact us at podcast@lausanne.org. That is podcast@lausanne.org.
Also, another thing that we have been using has been from my training again, just through when after campus, I finished my campus in 2021, then graduated in 2022 from one of the universities in Kenya. After that, I was exposed to some ministry through the one that is more of the Restore program. That one is now, how do we now bring savings as part of discipleship in such economy? Because poverty level here is so high that people cannot sustain themselves. And that program has been a tool also to now penetrate and even bring the leaders in the communities, like the paramount chiefs, the Restore program, because now we are using saving as a means to reach to the community. Now taking the church to them, because sometime inviting them to the church, more so the old men, it has been very hard. So I used that tool that I learned, and we have seen now how we have really penetrated the village, that within a year we have formed almost 70 saving boxes or saving groups that are well trained. We have people who are trained, and we are not losing its purpose, which is to bring these people to Christ and also to help them in dealing with poverty, savings, and home business. So yes, that one has grown very fast. But I started with training the 15 evangelists. Almost for my first 1 year, it was to train them to understand the biblical principles of saving, because it can also be a tool that can cause controversies, more so in the village, because of emotive that comes with money. So I had almost a year of just working with them, saving with them as 15, before now having them to start practicing it to the villages. And our financial year ends this June. And I was just seeing the growth of what Saving Box has done. Totally, they have saved almost $8,000. I could see some photos. They are saying that women now are buying soaps by themselves. And now from it also, we are now bringing farming. Because now being a country that has been mostly exposed to war, we discover that organizations are the one running the economy of this country. So you find that people are still dependent of food that is given. And yet we have big land here. Still, people are dependent on NGOs to provide for them. But we are now trying to bring them back to farming. So every church we are forming church farming committees that now bring together these people as a committee to farm. And as a church now they have their farms, and we have seen as a demonstration for them, and we see them growing now to their personal farming by themselves. And though farming has been slow, but I'm seeing it picking, because now we are trying to connect it with savings. Since saving, the money loses value. By the time they started saving, the dollar was around 4,800. Now it's 6,600 to SSP. So you see, in long term, it's losing the value. So we are seeing how do we now change from saving to business and now growing the farm as a church. Yes, I have really enjoyed that. Where I still need some help. I have been just texting. They are called the Chalma movement. Just texting them and asking them, now how do I deal with this? Because mostly I have been getting knowledge from as I practice. And they also have been helpful. I meet with them. I had faced a danger whereby there was one fellowship that grew to a saving box. And later, the saving box grew so much that now the non-believers were more than the believers. And now that one had posed a danger. Now we can lose the discipleship. So I wanted just to know, how do we help that? Bringing back the leadership, training them or now on material that they should be using every month. And now connecting the saving box with now what I call home fellowship, home Bible studies. That now has been a thing that I have been trying to do. Having a home fellowship for every church, at least 2 or 3, so that they are meeting at home every week, and now attach that to the saving, so that they meet to do their devotion, to pray, to read their Bible, and now saving is just part of that, part of reconciling people to Christ. And for sure, I can say that God has been opening those doors. Like one church now, we can see one of the Sultan is the paramount chief. He's the leader there of this Bible study. And you can see the impact that it has when now we have a community leader as part of it. So still praying that now God will bring the leaders, because most of our evangelists lack that community authority. Yes, they have church authority, but now the community authority. And God has been working, that is drawing those sultans, those people who have influence. They are coming and they are genuinely being converted. You can see them, how they speak in the meetings. The one now, the sultan that I'm sharing about, he's the one in charge of a home fellowship in his area. And he was telling me that anything I want, if I want the report on how they are meeting and the study they are doing, I can ask him. And you can see that village, because the sultan is there. That's basically what I have been doing.
We will hear more about the practical side of things and more details about Tom's ministry in just a moment. But first, as so often, I want to understand the context and the history of South Sudan a bit better.
Before, it was a larger Sudan. It was one country as Sudan. But the lower parts, they are more of Christians. The upper part, the major Sudan, is more of Muslims. They are mostly Islamic in nature, and it was oppressive, the Sharia laws and all that, so that the lower part was being run by the Muslims who are in charge of the Sudan itself, from the president and that. So the lower part felt disadvantaged because they will not worship, like they were under captivity of Arabs. So they have been rebelling for quite a long time. It's a civic war that started nearly 90s. So in 2010 is now where the climax was, whereby the lower part, who are now Christians in nature, they were fighting with the Muslims, the upper part, and it split into two, whereby the Arabs, mostly the Arabs, remained on the upper part. Now when we say independence, they got independent from the Arabs. And the lower part, now where we are, they are now Christians in nature, but they were more of traditionalists, not even Christians, because there were no churches. So that's the nature of the context by which we say they got independent from the Arabs. And that's why the South Sudan is the only English-speaking country that speaks Arabic. Mostly, their major language is Arabic, and we see it as a tool that God can use even now to reach to the Arab world. The Sudan itself, because they speak Arab, most of them though have changed to English. They don't want Arab because they are seeing it as an oppressive language that was oppressing them. So it's the language that they know most, but they don't want it. And they have put English as their national language. So that's why they're learning English, but they majorly speak Arabic here in town. But in the villages, they speak their local language. Like for me now, I work with Dinkas and Luos. They are still in their culture. They are in cultural practice. The community are still led by the spear masters who are the spiritualists in the community. I went to the village where they're still practicing marrying for the dead, that when you, like me, I'm still not married. When I die now, my brother should marry for me. So I went there and found that a man has 3 wives, but he has not yet married. He has married for the 3 brothers that died when they were young. That even if a child is born now and dies now, they will say 15 years from now he should be married. Now the brother who is alive should marry for that. And it's a challenge that even at church, we had one boy who is in the church, has believed, and now he was being forced to marry for the dead brother. And he was wondering, what should I do? Because he already has a wife. So those challenges you find now, the culture is still very heavy. The wives are still not free in a way, because it's like they're still oppressed in a way. In terms of business, in terms of even coming to church, they must consult their husbands. In terms of doing anything, it's a paternal hierarchy, and the decision is decided by the village elders. Even the one that should marry you, you don't have a choice. So that's the culture we are working on, or we are working within.
I just had to keep thinking about the 15 evangelists Tom is working with and wanted to know how their role works exactly. But also hearing about all this made me wonder how one can share the good news in such a context. How I couldn't put 2 and 2 together is beyond me. But let's hear from Tom about the evangelists and how they work to share the gospel in rural South Sudan.
They're employed in Africans to Africa, but how they're employed is that they are attached to a supporter in Kenya. So every evangelist has a supporter who supports them monthly from now regional church. And in this context, regional church is Kenyan church, and now local church is South Sudanese church. So every evangelist, we decide to grow. The more they grow, but now support us. Sometimes we find one church supporting one evangelist, and in a month is $50 per evangelist, but we divide it because we give them $30. Then $15 is now for materials, printing, and their movement. So that's how it works. So in a country that almost everyone has a gun, it is not very, very easy, because sometimes you are trying to balance, not to destroy the entire ministry by being chased away completely, and also now the gospel itself. That's why now working with these 15, transforming them, because they have believed. We have invested mostly in them. When they come for training, when they come for what, so that when they are the one training their churches, it's not like it's a foreign thing coming from foreign people. How do we balance this? Because we are talking with these evangelists on church discipline. We are talking about them on cost of following Christ, because it was there and there was a danger of that, of mixing the church and the culture so that there is no difference at all. But now when they come by themselves, getting the truth from the scripture, because again, there's a program I started known as Consistent Bible Reading, whereby they are reading the Bible consistently by themselves, getting the conviction by themselves. So when they are going to speak those truths, it is the locals themselves speaking it. And also we have seen God himself working, because like that boy, we just prayed with him. We prayed for courage. We prayed and just asked God to take over. And the boy was bold enough by himself. And sometimes we find that some are ready to pay the cost and say, I will stand with what the Bible says. Some are being chased from the community, but standing with those truths, we have seen their families now also coming. They are being chased for some few years, but they come back because they stood on the truth, and the calamity hits that family. They call them to pray for them. They tell them, come bring your God at least to pray with us. So when he comes, you find that he's now being accepted. But some have to pay that cost. Some have to stand boldly for that. We are having one lady who was to be given to a spear master or to another person. She's a believer. They wanted to marry right and has married one of the strong person in the church, but they came for her to bring her back home. They even hit her. Her eyes has been permanently damaged. I tried to take her to the hospital for checkup and they said it cannot be fixed and what. But she has stood firm and say, this is what I want. This is how I will be married. This is what I will do. And you can see now for her, she is paying the cost of that. But we can see the fruit now that that church is more prayerful. That church, you can see there's a fear of God that is coming. And you can see people standing strong in the Lord. Sometimes it's hard even for me because you don't know. And now you see we are partnered with an organization that's an NGO and there's a policy, standard policy of neutrality when such things happen. And the other side, you have the Bible that speaks like this. And now you see I'm at the center of all these partnerships. So sometimes the Lord who comes through and he does things that sometimes we even don't understand. But sometimes there are people who are paying the cost for it.
I was really encouraged by how many organizations, churches, and denominations work together here. I know from neighboring countries like Kenya and Ethiopia that this is not always the case. So I asked Tom to expand on the Christian collaboration in South Sudan a bit more.
We are working together. Now you see, like for me, I'm from a different church, but the church and all these 15 evangelists are from Episcopal Church of South Sudan. And we are really working together well, even though there are some differences that we have. We have been struggling on baptism because we believe in immersion. Here they believe in sprinkling, but from the discussion and agreement, sometimes we say that one cannot stop the work because it's not a major doctrine issue, because we all believe salvation by faith in Christ Jesus and it's by grace. Another one we have been having a challenge is prayers, because the prayers is like the overnight, the kesha's. You see, we have some that want to pray more, but here the structure of Episcopal, it's the priests who pray. And you see now these evangelists and others in the village, because those in the villages we are the one planting the church. So you find the mother church here in town is hearing the churches there operate in prayers, they meet and what, and they are wondering what is this again. So we just have those, but thank God for the bishop of the ECS, because there are some things we sit down, because he's the overall leader in the internal province. We sit down, we say, what do we agree on? What don't we agree on? He allowed us on baptism. He said if a person wants to be baptized in water, it's okay. The one who want to be sprinkled, as long as they both believe. So we have that give and take. But on major doctrine, we are at par. This is what we believe. This is what we do. And now also Episcopal Church itself is a young church. Yes, it has been there, but many things is like we are the ones through A to A, like we are the one bringing them. Even the Bible study and all those things. So we have that advantage of, like, we are mostly in the villages, we are like the foundation of what's starting there. So in the village, we don't have those rankles, but now just some time now from the overall leadership within the internal province that we need to speak some things out.
Unfortunately, it's not very often that churches and denominations work together so well. But oh my days, how wonderful the ministry becomes when they do. Nevertheless, hearing about the situation and Tom's ministry, one does not need to have the most imaginative mind to realize how difficult the situation is, how demanding and often how dangerous and frustrating. I wanted to know what keeps Tom going.
During my transition, because I had just finished my university, I was 1 year through internship with my church before they sent me. So I came here after a year of my university study, because I have done geospatial information system. I was wondering if I spent 5 years in university to come and do this. So at first I had those doubts. The security here, the medical issues. So when I came at first, I was very sick, that I was airlifted back to the country. The medical here is not very good. I was injected over 30 injections of a wrong disease. I can imagine. It was my lowest moment, because even the doctors themselves, they were not sure what they are treating. And that time I had doubts again. But relating with the churches here, seeing how God has drawn people more so some families in one of the villages, how God has transformed that church, that they have stopped some idol worship, the peace that is coming, that there was even a time that there was a tension of war and we were evacuated from here back to the country, and old people are complaining that the church has made young people are not available for war, because there is that radical change in these young people. And you can see what the gospel is doing. You can see how it's bringing peace, because now if we don't have young men to go for war, it means even now the people who are causing those, the rebels who are in the forest, they don't have young people, because we are trying to see these people as evangelists and see that transformation. And for me, when I see the country itself, I see hope. When I see how we are seeing that growth in those villages, I say, it gives me purpose. Somebody asked me, why did you go back even after that sickness, that moment? I told him that just seeing that there's a young child here that needs that gospel. There is a young woman here that needs that hope. And it gives me that confidence that God wanted me to be here. The knowledge and the wisdom that God has been providing people to train me, I felt that God has been using it even to transform people financially, the church. And it gives me confidence that God has been preparing me for this. Before, I was not believing in miracles at some points, because when you are coming from a country that, yes, it's not that good, but everything is running, systems are running, you might take some things for granted. But when I was here and seeing one of my evangelist head was cut because of the gospel, and I was bleeding throughout the night because the hospital is far away and the means of transport is not there. He was cut like 10 p.m. and he arrived in the hospital at 7 a.m. bleeding, and I could not help, because the organization could not release the vehicle, because they were saying when he dies in the vehicle, the organization might have many things to answer. So that night was just a night of trusting God, of praying, of the family members calling me. It was a little bit traumatizing because I was handling pain. But he arrived in the hospital, surgery was done. The one doing surgery to him was using a torch and it's outside, and I was like, this is an emergency. So I could not even look at him. I ran back to my place just to pray, and he was healed. To me, that was a testimony. I thought he will not make it because everything in his head, upper part, was outside. But God came through and healed him, and it just built my confidence from there. Also, I have been seeing God doing miracles. Even though at some point I lost my friend who was a Muslim, I had not shared the gospel with him, but I had developed a friendship. So one day he just called me that he's sick in the hospital. Within few hours, he was gone. And it was diabetes that took him within a few hours. And because of medication, they told me that I don't know what they wanted. I had to look for it. I had to call Juba so that the aeroplane will deliver the next morning. I have some friends there so that when the plane is coming, it can come with it, but he didn't make it till that morning. So that was one time that I was very weak again, because he was my motorist who used to carry me from one place to another. So it was very low, him dying in my hands. So it was also a reminder of, since I lost my dad, and since that time I've never been close to a dead body. So just seeing how life is here, how sometimes God answers the way I pray, sometimes he does not. It has built a confidence that if we do not come to such place, then who will come? If we will not allow God to use us in such place, in fear of war, in fear of tension, then who will come? Because God has provided opportunity that, yes, there is that war, but they are receptive to the gospel. And he has also provided that opportunity that they hate Islam, if I can use that word, because they have been under them and it has been oppressive. So it has provided opportunity for Christians to come and share the love of Christ to them.
As always, there is so much more to say. More about the ongoing tensions and hardship in South Sudan. More about World Concerns ministry with Africans to Africa. More about Tom and all he's doing with the Evangelists. And so much more about interdenominational collaboration. But now, to wrap it up, I asked Tom to share something that's on his heart, and then prayer requests, so we can intercede more intentionally.
The message that I will share is that the Lord is working, the Lord is at work, and we as young people should be available to be used by God and also to be discipled well and to be mentored, because sometimes we have zeal, but we might lack the knowledge of it. So my biggest message will be for young people to submit to mentorship, to submit to learning, and to allow God to use us, because there is a lot that God is doing, and that we are young and energetic. What John reminds us, that is speaking to us because we are energetic, then I believe that we can use this resource of time and energy that he has given us to be used in such areas. Now, the ministry that I have in Marsabit, it's a ministry that is more personal. I started it by my own with my friends, because in university we were doing ministry. We are just young people, and we visited the northern Kenya, and we said, yes, now we think that everybody in Kenya is enjoying this thing, but we have people that do not even have toilets, do not have schools, and the gospel is not there. At first, while we were sharing that, everybody was like, you people, you are young, these things have been tried, go to this other place. And from that, I saw a gap that perhaps the local church is missing the potential, that young people can also be used by God, and they can be burdened towards some things. Because when we were sharing that story of northern Kenya, we have been there for 2 years, not like the work that is here in South Sudan, but just visiting, supporting, training, now replicating what I've been doing here, but now with friends, because we have a leadership of 6. We meet people to train us, and the churches have been supporting us, some churches more so in our trainings. And what I will desire most from local church is that sensitivity of and opportunities that young people can engage in. Because we have a lot of conferences, even in Kenya, for young people that attend, but young people are lacking now the opportunity, because I am trained for 1 full week, but now nobody's showing me where the field is. People are now saying now the resources have become the problem of these young people to go. In Kenya, we have a conference, Focus Kenya, that bring together young people, and it's commissioning that happens after every 4 years, and over 10,000 young people come together. But I ask myself, for years, all these 10,000 people have been there, but in the field, we are seeing old people. Where are these young people? In giving also, we are these young people in the marketplace. How can we bring them to give? And that has been my main desire, that the church will expose young people, take them for short term, not for intention of sending them to the field, but also now changing them to support the work. And that's now my major desire in South Sudan, in northern Kenya. Now being in Kenya, we can take more people to the field, let them get the burden, and support now financially this work, because now many of them, they might not go, but we can now use them to support. And I realized, because personally I got a burden when I went there, and saw a 7-year-old girl married to a 46-year-old man. But before that, I could just pray and say yes, but that exposure gives a burden. So I will really desire the local church to provide now those opportunity for young people to see what's happening in the field. What we have been trying with my church, just bringing that, we have been trying to share reports. Even though, yes, I share in the organization, the report through that, and but now keeping the church, sharing the story, sharing the burdens, and also now being part of small groups, home fellowships in church. Because sometimes I attend their meetings online, and while sharing it, they are now praying, because we always say out of sight, sometime out of mind. So the global church can be in touch with the people in the field, have their pictures even in church of this ministry work, these photos that we share, let them be in the church, so that when a person is coming to the church, he remembers, yeah, this is work in South Sudan, this is a photo in South Sudan, so that we pray for them. Also, just having a consistent time of prayer before we start service, just sharing what is the Lord doing throughout the world, just getting those stories, share in the church, and let people pray, not only for their missionary, but sometimes I follow that dashboard and I see stories, and some stories I share with my elder in charge of missions, and they pray for them, and you see now their mind is not closed on South Sudan, but seeing also how God is working and exposing in other ministry. So I think by sharing those stories, having people who share those stories and pray for the work.
You have listened to the God on the Move podcast, which is part of the Lausanne movement's wider God on the Move initiative, where we want to share inspiring God stories from the global church with the global church. Through listening to what God is doing all around the world, we hope to encourage and challenge the global church to faithful obedience to the Great Commission. So let's accelerate global mission together toward a vision for the gospel for every person, disciple-making churches for every people and place, Christ-like leaders in every church and sector, and kingdom impact in every sphere of society. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, be sure to subscribe and follow us for more.